Frank Facciano.
Here.
Glenn Geisinger.
Present.
John Hayes.
Here.
Larry Hemberger.
Present.
Neil Copeland.
Here.
Ed Lozano. Jeff Matzkin.
Present.
Ted Rosenberger.
Here.
Mike Schwer.
Here.
Matt Turk.
Here.
And Chris Worley.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Welcome, and thank you all for joining us today. I'm at the point in my life, if I don't do something when I remember it, I tend to forget it sometime later in the meeting, so let me divert from the agenda for two reasons. I just heard something from Ted. You can tell us a little bit about your video clips on national, international television?
I spent last winter filming ski areas as a little venture I'm working on, and Killington, the largest resort in the East, recently licensed all of my footage and for marketing purposes, and they handed it over to NBC, and it's on national TV.
Terrific. That's great news. We need to celebrate success. Another member of our authority had a success, something that I envy for him and aspired to and could never accomplish, and Matt Turk completed in the New York Marathon. So congratulations, Matt. I understand no sooner finished, got in a plane and went out to market the Lehigh Valley, so thanks, that's terrific.
Work never stops.
Again, I think it's important for us to celebrate the success of members here and share some good.
Volunteer of the Year.
That's it. And Baum was named Volunteer of the Year by the Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce. The rest of us can go lick our wounds and aspire to be something. Opportunity for public comment, and I see Randy Euler has submitted an opportunity to speak. So please join us, Randy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I spoke to you last month. I wanted to follow up this time about the comments I made last month. I didn't get replies yet. And my name is Randy Euler. I live over in Plainfield Township near Braden's. Last month I spoke to you about the Air Service Focus Group. When and where are the meetings, the contact info, that's what I wanted to know. Ann Baum did respond after my comments. She said, all welcome, the more the merrier. That's a welcome change to me because when I was on the board, it wasn't Ann, but the current chair, the public wasn't too welcome, neither were the board members. So they wanted who they wanted in those meetings, and that was it. Why not, the other question I had was why are these meetings, the results of them not reported to the full board? Probably because it's not a regular committee of the board, but it's still, the public should not be shut out of these meetings. That's my opinion. The other thing to back that up is, just in my everyday travels, I know for a fact, even within almost walking distance or short drives from here, 1 to 2 mile radius, and more throughout the Lehigh Valley, there's many professionals and others, business professionals and others in the valley interested in expanded air service. So why wouldn't you want their help? Empowerment, inclusion, transparency. That's what I put down on my notes. The second is the LNAA board size. Again, shrinking size doesn't make sense. It is exclusion, not inclusion, and limits self-empowerment by the citizens. There's more power in each remaining voice. I mean, that's like economics and business 101. That's where I learned that. So, again, I don't understand that, but we'll move on. That wasn't my comments last month, which I submitted to the chair. Education partners, Lafayette College and near Braden's and Northampton Community College. What's the plan here? I know there was talk about some meetings, partnering with them and whatnot, but when will this be implemented? What's the plan? I talked about the kids in the schools, how another airport authority out in the mid or western part of Pennsylvania is offering pilot ground school and the high schools and getting the kids in the further down grades interested in aviation. Is there a plan? What's the plan? What can we do? What can you do? The fourth is the Braden grant. This is still, I'm stuck on this one. The two counties should not be subsidizing airports on a continuing basis. I explained why the last time. Northampton County taxpayers have some say in this issue, which was not addressed by our current council liaison. I think that's self-explanatory. I'm not really opposed to the Braden grant, but It's just the way we go about the process, I think, as far as transparency and inclusion. The fifth was the Braden Terminal related to number 4. 10 years ago, with Moyer Aviation on board, he was the fixed base operator. Approximately 1.1 million was in budget for a 2-story building, and that was scrapped. What happened there? What's the plan now for the new terminal building at Braden? And I want to wrap this up again. That's it, short and sweet. Use to the public is win-win for all. And again, the thing I'd have to put out to the board and the authority, going forward, do you really want to be part of a problem or part of the answer? Inclusion and empowerment, transparency? I hope so. That's it. As always with me, God bless America.
All right, thank you, Randy. The minutes of our October 31st, anybody else care to address the authority? Pardon me. Then the minutes of the October 31st meeting were distributed to you, and we have a motion to accept them.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any additions or corrections to those? Then all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Yes.
All right. I love the delay. You know, it feels I'm talking by satellite to Europe. You know? Treasury report, and Ed Lozano cannot be here. There was a family issue that intervened, but I understand Todd will make the treasurer's report.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. We do want to send our prayers out to Eddie, who lost a member of his family, so please pray for Eddie tonight. Go to the treasurer's report. Continuing the theme of what was said earlier, this was a good month for us, so we're celebrating successes. As you remember, the last quarter of our year is usually when we have a lot of expenses and our revenue kind of slides a little bit. So we have budgeted a $238,000 loss, and actually we made a profit. So that's a $460,000 swing. That is something to celebrate. I think we should all take an applause. That says it all. I mean, and all that is driven primarily by income. We've had more income because of our flights, both in Allegiant and in cargo. That means more fuel. That means more traffic at the airport. And our employments, which I'll show later, were up significantly. You can see down here, parking and roadways was up 21%, which was a really good month for us. As you can see from previous months, we really lost a lot of revenue with parking, so to have a really good month for 21% is a good thing. Next slide, please. Again, go back one. This is just the year-to-date. Again, we're having a phenomenal year. Through October, we had 1.3 million net income. We are well over $2 million over that number, so we're almost at $3.5 million, which is excellent through 10 months. And as I said before, the last quarter, we anticipate losing money. So that number, that budgeted number goes from 1.2 down to 500,000. So if we can maintain that 3.5 million, we're way ahead of the game, which early results for November say we're in a good position. Again, the expenses were well managed. Year to date, we continue to do that trend, and revenues are up. Pretty cut and dry. But here you can see the really good news. Look what happened in October over here. You know, look it up and point it out. So there, you can see right there. October, up 19.7. That's worth another applause. Yeah. That is the best October we've had since 2010. That's one of those you just drop the mic and say, enough said. Next slide.
Todd,
Yes.
I do think it's, if you don't mind going back, I do think it's helpful to mention that September, though it was down 9.6, there were 2 hurricanes that occurred.
Yes.
So it's not really indicative of a problem with
Correct.
the airport. It really is a weather issue.
But, you know, it is interesting that, you know, I always talk about managing expectations. We had 2 hurricanes in September, but look at that number compared to 2015.
Yep.
So it's only because we got our hopes up because of that 10.2 over here. And even with the hurricanes, compared to 2015, we did really well.
That's a good point.
Anything
So-
else we can attribute that 19.7% increase?
I think it's all due to the staff's hard work.
There's definitely some more seats in the market. We're seeing that from the air carriers. So some additional traffic, those seats being filled, which is great.
Yep.
And so we
So
expect
bigger
that to-
aircraft and
Well, not necessarily bigger aircraft, more aircraft. So again, just something we're expecting to see kind of run through the fourth quarter here.
So again, we were at, if you remember last month, we were at -3. So we cut that number in half in one good month. So if November is a good month, we might be flat for the year. Considering our trend, if we can stay flat for the year, that would be a pretty good accomplishment, considering the last 2 years were pretty positive for us.
Tom, jump back to your comment regarding more seats coming in. Any particular airline?
Well, I think what we saw on the traffic for October was additional seats from American.
Yeah.
And we knew that American had taken some seats out of the market when they were looking at different aircraft equipment and removing one of the turboprops at Dash 8 from our market. And so as part of that, we knew that there were some seat reductions, and we're seeing those now come back, and that's really driving some of that as well.
the newer aircraft?
Again, more of the regional jet aircraft, so.
And this is our cash flow. It goes in hand with what we said all along. We got plenty of cash. Our cash is down a little bit from our projection from last month, mainly because we pay our bills faster than folks pay us. So we're going to try to pay our bills similar to the way they pay us and for the last couple of months. But seriously, we expect that to balance out by the end of the year, and we'll continue to be in a good cash position. You can see where we are. Like I said, we have unrestricted cash of $4.9 million after reserves and everything else, which is a good position. Enough said. Again, as you remember, in October, one of the things that we did, we paid all of our MMO. So that's why our expenses are high. And we also paid the extra 50 of the 200,000 for our pension obligation, as Ted requested when we talked about our pension, kind of getting ahead of that curve and paying some extra on it. So we paid an extra 50,000 in our pension obligations, which is included in those results for the financials. So any questions? It's pretty cut and dry. Any questions? I'll try to make it a little less longer than Eddie, but
Again, I have to say, when I think about the financial reports we got 3 or 4 years ago, that where we've got money in the bank, and thank you very much, and a list of bills, and now you see this kind of projection, I think that's what people tell us they appreciate about getting more and more information. I think there's not a nickel we spend that people don't know about.
thank you.
Thanks, Todd,
Yep.
appreciate it. So I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented.
So moved.
Your second?
Second.
Any additions or corrections? Everybody in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. What I'd like to do is hold the executive committee report to an executive session subsequently. I think the judge will allow us to do that, as the approval of the extension, at least to discuss. We'll come back and have the vote in public, most certainly, but I'd like to try to consolidate our executive session conversation so that we don't have people moving in and out. So allow me then to turn to Ann and Finance and Capital Planning. You've had a busy month.
Yes, so we are presenting for approval both the operating budget and the capital improvement program. This has been vetted in a lengthy meeting by the committee, and I move the approval of the budget. I'll move it now, and then we can go into discussion. But Todd will walk us through.
We
The
have a
staff
second?
has done,
Second by Jeff, fine, thank you.
thanks, the staff has done a great job putting together this summary, so
I'll put
Todd,
it together.
lead us through.
I know you're getting tired of seeing me.
Not yet.
Oh, okay, thanks. Thanks for letting me know that.
Only when you
Again-
deliver good news.
Yeah, only when delivering good news. As Ann said, we had about a 2-hour vetting of the budget where all the tough questions were asked. If you have a few more, I don't have any candy to give out, but certainly you can ask those questions
He
today.
did give us candy at the
Right.
meeting, if we ask
This,
questions.
and this is just kind of a recap because it's important to know where we started from. Last month, we talked about what do we think about when we do a budget. We want to be financially responsible, strategic, and we always want to manage our expectations. We have a lot more needs than we have money. we have a lot more needs, especially given from whence we've come. So our goals were to cover as minimum expenses to run the airport, meet our debt service requirements, fund as many additional needs once we get those two done, and then keep our airline rates and charges as low as possible. Go back to that a minute. Okay, cover our minimum expenses to run the airport. I just want to refocus on those. Cover the minimum expenses to run the airport, meet our debt service, fund as many additional needs as possible, and keep our airline rates and charges as low as possible. Well, those were our goals. So those are the things you should be holding us accountable to as we go through this budget. Next slide again. All right, did you see our revenues for our budget are up basically $2.5 million from where they were last, from our projection, and $3.5 million from the 2017 budget. Because we're managing expenses and we're not holding on to all of our money, we are spending that money. So here's where I'm spending the additional $3.3 million in operating expenses and cost of sales. And you'll note in, I forget which page it is in the operating budget, but we're adding 27 new positions as of now and 36 positions from last year's budget. Those were the additional positions that we had talked about numerous times. Those are in the budget. And a lot of the additional needs, again, remember that statement on the goals, we're covering as many additional needs as possible. So if you're adding 36 employees, that's pretty significant. We're going from 5.2 versus where our projection is 6.5, and we were 5.1 in 2017's budget. Similar, again, we're not trying to stockpile a lot of money. We are making a profit because we live in both worlds. We have to maintain our infrastructure, but we also have to manage the other resources that we have. So again, we're doing that. The other airports, they're going down some. They're showing a slight loss from where they were in previous years. A lot of that because of the fuel sales going down and labor costs going up. So we're managing those. You see our depreciation going up, again, because infrastructure. We're building our infrastructure, which means more depreciation. Net income, 242, last year was 538. Now you might say, well, why is it 242? We added 36 positions. Again, some of those positions are placeholders. We're covering as many needs as possible. We are meeting our debt service. That's really important. Our debt service is 1.57 on our bonds. We're at 1.61. Last year we were at 1.62. So we're meeting those needs. We're covering our cash, and we're not holding on to the money. We're reinvesting in the airport. So, and this is kind of our rates and charges. I wanted to show where we were. In 2007, our landing rate was $3.67. We shot all the way up in 2015 to $5.18. Now, we've been coming down slightly the last few years. No, that's not that good a thing there. And you can see we've come down from 518 to 510 to 494 to 474. Even though our terminal rate is going up over here, terminal space can be managed. And when you can put the two of them together, most of our airlines are going to see a decrease in their costs. The only ones that are going to see a slight increase would be the ones that use a lot of the space at the airport. So overall, we're accomplishing the goals that we set out. Again, we're not going to have $1 zillion sitting in the bank that we're not going to reinvest in the airport. Net income of $200,000 is modest, but it is managing all of our expectations and doing the things that we need. Again, we vetted this pretty significantly in our meetings, but I'm sure there's one or two tough questions that I'm dying to answer. So before you approve it, you can ask your question.
Could you characterize the 30-some new positions? Do you have any breakdown of the nature?
They are broke down in your actual document that breaks down by FTE. There's cargo. There's the 7 positions that we've talked about numerously. In there, there's a deputy executive director position in there. May or may not be used. There's some other positions that give us the opportunity to reorganize or go in a different direction if we choose to. So those resources are set aside, even though the plan may be a little different than that down the road. Does that answer your question, Ted?
Page 23 and 24.
Any other questions?
What's our CPE
Our CPE
correlated to?
is 1694. We went through that in our business and finance meeting. That number is up a little bit from where it was, but again, we're trying to maintain competitive. We did our airline rates and our CPE compared to airlines in this area, and we're in the ballpark. We're still on the high side. That's why we're trying to get those rates down. But again, we are competitive. And you got to remember, we're not getting subsidies. Some of the other airlines are getting subsidies. We don't get subsidies. And the biggest area that we have to deal with is we have more space than a lot of other airports. So we're about 30, maybe 40% capacity tops. So that's going to affect our CPE because we're managing a lot more space than we're actually using right now. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Any other questions? I have no candy or anything, but again, I think you should approve this budget. We vetted it. It's responsible. It does all the things that we set out to accomplish with our goals, and I feel good about it. And I know our staff is behind it as well. So I say you approve it. Right, Mike? All right.
You suggest we approve it anyway.
There you go.
We have a motion and a second. We had the discussion. So all those in favor of adopting the proposed budget, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Budget's approved, and Ann, you're back on for
Okay, so
capital.
now, capital improvement program. And Brian, are you going to present it?
So, just briefly, as Ann mentioned, we vetted the capital program in our committee. And as Todd just alluded to, in terms of the budget, we tied the numbers together of where we're spending the money on the projects and making sure we can cover it with our cash flow and other things. So, just a brief overview. I think I gave this last month as well, but when we look at all of our projects, we kind of go through this project progression and process in terms of planning and programming the project, designing, construction, inspection, and then the maintenance and some of the items that we have in between as well to make sure we're in line with what we need to do. So again, just as a recap, the process for equipment initiatives is again the need of prioritization in terms of the vehicle life, repeat maintenance, those kinds of issues. The big thing that we did this year that was different is we added that business critical category that we talked about before. But the main things for us, since we do have a lot of deferred needs and requirements for capital investment, is it really comes down to the safety of our passengers and our employees is the number one. Maintaining service, if it can no longer be deferred, in order to maintain that service, that's a big piece. And then business critical and revenue generating. We're always talking about how do we generate revenue with some of these projects that are sometimes hard to quantify, but that's a big piece of what we need to look at. Again, customer service oriented. You'll see with some of the projects we put in are definitely focused towards our customers, which we want to do. And then regulatory mandated. We have grant funding requirements and commitments, but we also have regulatory requirements that don't necessarily give us an option either. Slide, please. So we went through some of the recap of last year, but this is some of the major ones for this coming year. Excuse me. Our rehab of our main runway 624, continuing the design of that is a big one with the FAA funding that we get. A few state projects and loan projects we've talked about with Hangar 11 construction, the Braden Terminal building with the grant from the state and working through the other improvements we've talked about at Braden. And then at the end of our departure tunnel is our escalators and elevators. And again, that's a big customer service operational component of this facility that we want to make sure we're not behind the eight ball with what we need to do. And then some other ones, again, amenities, such as bathrooms, which are pretty common, but it's something that we can't take for granted of what our customers are looking for. And then continuing with our parking lot rehab, a big piece with the design for what's coming next. So this is kind of a double snapshot of what you've seen in the capital program. Is basically your FAA and state grant projects on the top, and then the major grant projects, non-grant projects in the bottom. The other sheets have a lot of our other equipment and smaller projects, but then the total here is really all the emergency, business critical, and regulatory projects are around that 6.4 million number, which also has a 5% contingency in there as well. And like we did last year, is as the needs arise, should should priorities change or we have additional funding that wasn't available when we did the budget, we have the other categories as well to filter them in with some other vehicle replacements and other things that can improve efficiencies and other pieces. So again, our share, we're looking at the 6.4, and then working through the projects, and I mentioned some of the larger ones that we're working through. So any questions?
Well, first, let me ask for a motion to adopt the budget. Motion second?
Second.
All right. Then, any other questions? You have the money?
Absolutely.
Todd's nodding.
We don't spend it if we don't have it.
Again, the committee reviewed all of this, and we get a monthly report on where we stand on the various projects, and even when there's something that was unexpected, maybe something over budget that we were not expecting, we're always getting updates at that committee level so that we're constantly monitoring. And then the team changes how they're doing their bidding. So one thing we learned recently was our land is less stable than we thought it was. So now, as they're putting the bids out going forward, that's something they'll take into consideration for those bids. So they're constantly reviewing this with us.
All right. Then all those in favor of adopting the budget as presented?
One quick question, Mr. Chairman. Just my only concern is we were talking about a budget where we got maybe $250,000 margin profit. But we've got $6.5 million capital projects that we're looking at. If they go 10% over, we're now 400,000 on the wrong side of the number. Are we comfortable? Are you both comfortable? Is everybody comfortable over here that all those numbers are parameters that if we do have an issue, we run into a problem, a lot of bad weather, whatever, that we're good? That's all I'm going to ask.
Yeah. Sure, yeah, and I think it ties to the cash flow that we do, and every project we try and put it out with the schedule as well as that cost. So that's something that we'll manage, and if some need to get deferred until the next year or something like that, we can manage it. So that's
And I would just say that we do that all the time.
I know you do.
You know, it happens all the time. If you notice on our cash flow, it changes. It's a dynamic document. It changes literally every month. And we've had some big projects. If you go back to, I just want to refresh your memory because sometimes people forget from what's come. If you go back to when we funded the EMAS project, we had no money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, we had negative money, and yet and still, we managed to take care of that, didn't we?
Yeah.
So have a little faith.
No, I have faith, but I'm just.
Thanks for pointing that
I
out.
think that's the appropriate question.
No, but great question.
Yeah.
12 months from now, if you're sitting here going, oh, crap, you know.
So all of that.
Oh, we have to wait 12 months to say, oh crap, we're in trouble.
And Ryan, correct me if I'm wrong, but we include a 5% contingency on our projects now.
Yes.
So we
Okay,
include-
that
Yeah,
is.
we have to.
Yeah.
Yes.
We do. And I think the other piece that's important to mention is the budgets, whether it's operating or capital, the numbers that we have programmed is really a conservative budget process that we use. So the numbers are very conservative. We're very comfortable with those numbers, and we think that, we certainly are hoping for better performance. But
Okay.
All right. So, any other comments or questions? And all those in favor of adopting the capital budget as presented, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Yeah.
All right. Terrific. They're getting faster.
Yeah, you
Thank
need
you,
to
gentlemen.
pause
Thank
slightly
you.
longer, Mike.
Pardon me?
You need to
I
pause
know,
slightly
I know.
longer.
The third item, the approval of 2 architectural engineering and planning on-call consultants. Ann chaired a meeting before this meeting, and she has a report to make.
All right, so I would like to make the motion that we approve AECom and McFarland Johnson as our on-call consultants. And I'll give you a little bit, do you want to take the motion in a second and then I'll
Yeah, I'll
explain?
take the motion. Do we have a motion I'll take your motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right.
So right now we have 2 regular firms that we work with. And the idea with these on-call consultants is that we have them pre-approved. So when we have projects, we don't have to delay the project time for us to go through the selection of the consultants to do the projects. And this was Ryan's recommendation. And it's not really similar as far as the scope of the work, but it's similar to what we did with our paving consultants, so that we have consultants. That's a new term for pavers, right? so that we're ready when we need them. And Ryan, would you like to add?
Sure, yeah, I think we had a great presentations this morning and some great discussion and back and forth. And the big thing is, as Ann mentioned, is having the flexibility and additional capacity when projects come up, like when we had the cargo ramp this past year and other things, to make sure that we're dynamic, as well as just helping out our workload in terms of the amount of capital projects that we do have, making sure that consultants that are focusing on large projects are focusing on those, but we're still getting a lot of the other projects done that we need to get done. So I think it was great presentations and some good ideas that we can hopefully use in the future as well as we're planning for other areas.
I think a point that Tom made when he made a presentation at the Lehigh Valley Chamber annual meeting was that we have a mission to be the premier regional airport in North America. And he made the point that a lot of that is to provide outstanding customer service. And the way we provide outstanding customer service is to be agile enough that we can flex and meet the needs when they arise. I didn't mean to step on your line, Frank.
No, I was just going to ask who the two regular architectural engineering firms are.
So we have CNS companies and Aurora engineers on staff that are on retainer.
All right. AECom was involved in the cargo ramp, weren't they?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
They're probably the biggest firm in the country, and I think they say 85,000 employees, so I guess I can find one person to work on our project.
Yeah, and the goal too, just to add what Ann mentioned, is to proving the two firms is to negotiate the contract with them to similar what we have with our other firms. So none of them posed any issues to our general contract language that we developed a few years ago, but it's just negotiating with them into that 3-year agreement.
So did we vote? All those in favor, please say yes.
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 Any opposed? I'm learning my cues. I think after 14 months, I'd have that figured out. Let's move on to Tom's report.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did want to recognize Matt Schuett here joining us today from State Senator Pat Brown's office. Thank you for attending. We talked a little bit about traffic report and the fact that we're up. It's exciting news. We talked about the seats in the market, and we think that'll continue through the fourth quarter here for us. In terms of upcoming events in December, we have a chocked full list of holiday events. And so just briefly, December 4th through the 26th, we actually have our Holiday Festival of Trees event that involves a partnership with 23 area schools to decorate those trees. And so it really does something spectacular at the terminal, and we're excited about that. December 8th, we do have a holiday party at Queen City Airport, so we're looking forward to getting together with folks at Queen City on the 8th. December 9th is our North Pole Charity Express Flight, which we've been doing for a number of years. Great opportunity to partner with a charity. In this case, we're partnering with the Pediatric Cancer Foundation of the Lehigh Valley. Super event with United Express, 20 families participating, so should be a lot of fun. That's December 9th. December 11th through the 22nd is our holiday concert series, so a lot of the area schools coming in. We have 10 different schools going to be performing their bands and choral groups, so it should be a lot of fun. And then December 16th is Shop with a Cop. So we did this last year. This is going to be the second time working with Target down the street, as well as partnering with Random Acts for the charity, and it benefits some students over at Catasauqua Area School District. So it's really been a great event. In other news, Transbridge will begin their operation at the new Multimodal Center starting on Monday. So we're excited to partner with Transbridge. Great opportunity to have them here, and looking forward to that operation. And the other thing I did want to mention is the authority did receive the Talent Development Award from the Association for Talent Development of Eastern Pennsylvania. And that was based on our Cleared for Takeoff program, which is a mentorship and leadership program that was developed here to assist leaders that we've identified within the group, and basically provide training and an opportunity for them to move forward. So we're excited that program is being recognized. We have 8 participants in the program this year, and we're happy to have our HR department and folks in Todd's group behind the scenes on that one. So a neat little award for the organization. And that concludes my report. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any question for Tom?
Larry?
How many buses do you anticipate coming through the,
I think the number was 70 a day.
Yeah.
really?
Yeah.
Wow. And will they be able to purchase tickets there as well?
So ticket purchases will be on the lower level of the main terminal at our passenger services counter. So right inside the main entrance coming in from the parking lot.
And we provided special parking in the short-term lot for people who are interested in purchasing tickets. There are 3 spaces reserved, I believe.
Correct.
The majority of the people are multi-ticket purchasers.
The operation is moved here from.
Correct, from the industrial park. So they'll still maintain that property, but all of the transportation that was occurring at that facility will be here.
It provides some
Someone goes in
parking.
and leaves their car, it's taking the buses a charge to leave their car, is that correct?
There is a charge.
You know what it is?
Yes, we do have that information.
$5 a day. I
$5,
believe.
I think.
I think they're charging $5 a day. They have some, you get a couple days free if you're a commuter. They have different, there's a whole sort of tier pricing that they do.
Transbridge charging them, or is the airport charging them?
That's going to be a Transbridge charge.
Right. And then they rebate to us.
Have you thought about concession down
I was
there?
just going to ask that.
We have had some conversations about opportunity for different concessions. So we continue to look at, to your point, we continue to look at some options and see if there isn't an opportunity to do
I think
something.
that could be worthwhile.
Yeah, I think Transbridge would love powdered donuts.
We'll just, for those of us from Easton, we'll bring Easton Baking up and let them sell donuts.
Or the Amaze Bakery does.
Yeah, I think our goal short term, anything, there's going to be a shakeout and a shakedown time, and I think initially our goal is to make sure that things are working well for them, for us, and for their customers, and then I think we begin to add some ideas. I think those are good things for us to be thinking about. I just want to say, just two things in conjunction. Number one, Tom has handled a couple of blips as we go through a variety of negotiations with not just throughout the Lehigh Valley. I think he's done a remarkable job of representing us, and I was pleased. I thought he did a great job at the Lehigh Valley Chamber annual meeting, and I think made a good impression for the airport, and I want to say thank you for that. I also want to say thank you to Colin, because the whole story on snow readiness and so on, I thought was just absolutely wonderful, and pictures in the newspapers, great video on Channel 69. It was, I think, terrific, and you could not miss those huge yellow vehicles and so on. I remember being at Queen City last summer when we had the event, and watching the kids climb up on those big vehicles. It was just exciting to see them do that, and it was a phenomenal opportunity. So again, to both of you, thank you very much. I think you think about our relationship with the media in general in the past 2 or 3 years. Thanks to the media and thanks to our staff, it has gotten to be a very, very good and positive relationship. So it's a good relationship both ways, and thanks to all of you. The solicitor's report.
Well, the Commonwealth Court ruled in favor of the authority's position on the WBF case. As a result of that, you'll recall that the Lehigh County Court had decided in favor of our position. As a result, $650,000 went into our coffers as a result of that successful position, and now it's been affirmed on appeal by the Commonwealth Court. That decision came down November 1. The deadline for filing for a request to appeal to the Supreme Court is 30 days thereafter, December 1. Frankly, I don't anticipate that there will be an appeal, but if there is a filing of an appeal, it's not automatic that the right to appeal is granted. It's up to the Supreme Court then as to whether they will permit the matter to be appealed to the Supreme Court. So as of December 1, we will know definitively whether this is over or not. I haven't heard anything from counsel for the other side indicating that they intend to appeal, but we'll have to wait to see. So it was a success for the authority.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you.
The other thing is you will see in front of you the white binders. Tom asked that I get an updated version of the Articles of Incorporation, and I did, from the Department of State, and then Mike agreed that it would be a good idea to provide a copy to each board member. So those are your copies, and that's the extent of my report. Thank you.
Robert, thank you very much. One other piece of business before we go into executive session, before I ask to go into executive session. We've looked at the calendar for December, and at the executive committee meeting, we had a rather extended discussion. It does not appear that there's any substantive business to undertake between now and the end of the year. And so we're suggesting that the regular board meeting not be held this month, but in fact, we will have a meeting on December 20th to review the final developer proposals for the Hanover Township property. So we will meet at that time. My suspicion is that the public notice of that meeting will indicate that's the purpose of the meeting, but we will also be there to conduct any additional business as may come before the board for special purpose. But as far as that will be the purpose for that meeting. So if you're all in agreement to have a half a vacation, we'll be more than glad to give that to you and come back in January. May I have a motion to go into executive session, as it states, to anticipate litigation, personnel matters, as well as the approval of the extension to the purchase and sale agreement with Rockefeller Group?
So moved.
All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? I'm getting better and better. I'm trainable. Then we'll move into executive session, and we will be coming back. We anticipate coming back to take action.
Mr. Dowd will now present to the board a motion, as I understand it, on that. Go back in public session.
On behalf of the executive committee, I will submit or move that we approve the extensions to purchase and sale agreement with Rockefeller Group for the 153 acres in East Allen Township. I'll make that as a motion on behalf of the executive committee. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? And you can get some details from you, I suspect. They need details. Sure. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Any opposed? Very good. Motion is passed. Any other business to come before the authority? Entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you very much. And I made it by 12:58, so
Yeah, that's impressive.
I think I made about 8 out of 12 times we made it.
That's 20 million a year in the majors. Oh, do you? Yeah.
All right, thank you. Thank you all. Good job. Let me update you.
We'll give him a 100% increase on his pay.
Exactly.
Oh.